I'm starting recording now, so whenever you're ready, you can start it.
Hey everyone, it's Gamer Chat. I'm Tim.
And I'm Josh.
So unfortunately, Jade will not be joining us as she said in our previous episode. She's getting over a cold right now. So, wish her well. So it'll just be me and Josh today. But today we're gonna be talking about games that have failed and are trying to make a comeback. And it brought this topic up was Anthem and how it's trying to its resurgence, or however you'd pronounce it or say it. But they've been putting a lot of updates, and all these updates include things that was promised in the original game that wasn't there, and now they're trying to get all that, they're trying to get all their fans back, all the people who believed in the game, trying to get all that back. So they're updating the crap out of the game, and we're just thinking, like, does Anthem, does it really deserve it? And what brought us upon that was we then started to think, do other games that failed, do they also deserve a second chance? Because some people want to give Anthem a chance, but what about other games that failed that, if they put in some updates or fixed a lot of stuff, could be a better game? So today we're going to be talking about that. And the biggest thing for Anthem, everyone knows, had nothing but bugs and was riddled with failure due to the fact that an over it was very overhyped, but the biggest issue was how rushed it was. The production for Anthem was extremely rushed, and what they wanted this game to be, they needed time. They needed time, but the producer or the developers or whatever, they didn't want to give time. They wanted this game out. They just wanted to toss it to the players, even if it wasn't, even if it was like a half baked, and the people were not happy, and that caused a lot of issues because you can't put all that effort in, all that work into a game that doesn't have like all. Josh, what am I trying to say here? Like, I'm trying to think of, Anthem had was supposed to have all this giant.
I it was supposed to be a magnum opus. Do you know what that means?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's supposed to be this crowning jewel for BioWare again to kind of revamp BioWare and give it some flair back after the failed
if anything,
Andromeda
if
series.
anything, if
So,
anything, I feel like this was more of of an EA
well, no, that
comeback.
this was BioWare's decision though. They decided to make the game.
Mm.
So BioWare wanted to make, since Mass Effect Andromeda failed after launch, they wanted to try and make a new game that would be its own, like a standalone game. And much to their own demise, they got rushed by EA and also by the fans after the E3 release. There was a lot of hype onto the game that was putting pressure on a already slowly declining game dev because Andromeda kind of kicked the living shit out of them. So they were already
That is true.
they already lost a lot of motivation to make games after Andromeda flopped, and then when this came out and it sold not nearly as much as they thought it would, it fucking kicked them in the teeth. Like it was too late. They already dealt the damage and they couldn't undo it. So, but hopefully, I'm going to be optimistic here and say that these updates for Anthem will give it some sort of player base. Not a lot. I'm not willing to assume that a lot of people are going to be coming back to this game because it's just probably not. People who already bought it probably will go back to it after these updates because, like, why the fuck not? I already own it, might as well. But I highly doubt new people are going to pick it up.
Honestly, I same. And I don't know how BioWare is expecting to get this done, but Anthem was a total nightmare, and it really fucked up with a lot of people, mostly because that giant ass bug that basically killed your console or whatever if you
Yeah,
started
that
it
that
up.
also happened too. Fuck, I forgot about that.
So I don't see Anthem getting that back, because that's a pretty big thing to get over. That's a giant giant red flag that just says, can we ever gain those people back? You know? Like, oh,
Yeah,
hey,
and it's kind of unfortunate that harsh reality is they probably won't. Like at this point, with the clunky UI and the awful things said from person to person, it's just I don't think anyone's gonna want to give it another shot. Like there, when I worked at GameStop, we were told not to sell Anthem if possible.
I'm so curious as to how
We were
you're,
encouraged.
how, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, discourage people from buying Anthem, or just
People
like take the
people
game and
were
throw it?
no. Like if we were when people came up to the shelves and we were like, "Oh, Anthem, blah 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 blah," we were supposed to give them the honest truth about how the game is at like as it is. So basically, we were told to discourage the game. We were told that we were supposed to tell them that there is a chance that it could destroy your console. There is a chance that you can make your console unrecoverable. There's a chance that you will have nothing wrong with the game. Everything will go work as planned, but the UI is bad. The combat's hard and like not really easy to follow. The it's the we had to already tell them that the game's bad basically before they even bought the game, and it sucked because I wanted Anthem to succeed. I really did. I like BioWare. I like the development community behind it and the fans that came with it. But after this, you kind of just lose heart. Like, you can't promote a game that you genuinely don't feel good about. And BioWare felt the same way. They can't promote a game that they don't genuinely feel good about. And so they kind of shut down and lost communication with the fan base. So
Can't
when
really blame them.
I mean, yeah, like obviously there's not a lot of, you know, upside to Anthem. Hardly anything was groundbreaking for Anthem besides maybe, I don't know, the fact that there was no block parts of the map, I guess. That was, cool, but the flying was weird. If you played the open beta like I did, it was not a very polished game. I maybe went through 3 hours of the game, I want to say, before I was like, this is awful. Abilities were hard to use. You really couldn't see a lot, even with the gamma all the way up. They made places way too dark. The
I
flying
heard
was
that the
god awful. It was so bad.
I heard there was like a lot of difficulty with the flying, especially there was like places where flying was restricted.
Yes, there were areas of flying was restricted, and it was so bad. Uh, the town itself that you were like, the main hub area was super confusing. Uh, Characters looked like they didn't belong. Um, the customization of the javelin was cool. That was actually like genius. It was really cool. The different classes was nice. It's just that the abilities that you had to use that you could use weren't, they didn't feel very strong. And even if you had like, let's say, a group of, I think it was 4 people in a squad, uh you're not taking on anyone strong anytime soon. Like it felt like all of the harder enemies were behind like a level cap, and it felt awful.
Damn.
But that's not to say that with this revamp, things could change. They may make the flying a lot easier now that other games now have more simplistic piloting controls than from 2017. Um, we have times where now combat UI is a lot better. It's much more improved, and EA with Apex out and everything, they can kind of use that as a template, and all their other games that have beautiful UI, and just make it simplistic instead of making it this harsh, clunky looking eyesore.
Right.
So, on top of that, looter shooters really only work if, like the tier system feels unique. Division feels nice because the system that it has in place is that the color scheme for tiers, and with Borderlands it's different, a bit like different effects on the guns that make it feel unique.
Right.
With Anthem, it was very stale. It was a very stale upgrade
Really?
system. Yeah, because you would get a gun, and then like on like a gray tier, and then you would get a gun on a blue tier, and there'd be like a 2 damage difference on it.
Wow,
And you'd be
that's
like, what? It's like, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
have you played Destiny?
Yes.
It
Are you
felt
saying,
like Destiny 1's tier system, but dumbed down.
Oh wow, that's bad. I can tell that's bad from
It's
just that
not.
description.
It wasn't very good. It was oversimplified for like a system that needed to be more advanced.
Right.
But I think honestly, does Anthem deserve a second chance?
I don't think so.
No, I don't. I don't think that. I think they should have just buried it and left it there. It shouldn't be Frankenstein's monster. They shouldn't try and bring it back. But they will try and bring it back. And staying optimistic here, hopefully it does do well. I really hope that it does go well, but realistically, it probably won't. I might pick it up. I will honestly probably pick it up because I played the beta and I saw how bad it was. And if they promise certain improvements and they deliver on those improvements, then I will probably pick it up.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. I never played it. I was discouraged from it after all the reviews, after just nothing but negative reviews coming in. I was discouraged to play it, and I don't know if I'll play it. My honest opinion, I don't think I will. I don't think it deserves a second chance because, I mean, this game had a lot of potential, and they just rushed it. And I hear they're even rushing the updates. Like, you guys need to learn from your mistakes, and you're not. So I don't think this game is going to get the second chance it wants. I think it's going to backfire on them.
Yeah,
And
just a waste of money.
honestly, yeah. And I mean, and that's not the only game. There's plenty of other games. Like, another one that comes to mind is Crackdown 3. Or I can't remember if it was 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
The
Crackdown
latest
3.
Crackdown game, that was it was pretty. I'm not gonna say it was overhyped or it had this huge amount of hype. It was moderately hyped up, but it couldn't deliver. It could
Yeah.
not deliver the hype, and it was a flop.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with Crackdown, you gotta expect a certain level of simplicity to it. And
Simplicity is key.
yeah, and with Crackdown 3, they kind of made it overly complicated for a very simple game. And from what I heard, the multiplayer was a complete failure. Like, it did not need to be a thing at all. If it was just a single player only, it probably would have done better. But because they added that multiplayer and because that option was there, it just killed it, And obviously, online interactions and stuff like that, you can't really worry about. But it's the gameplay.
That's something I want to add. You don't need to add in a multiplayer if you already have an amazing game. You don't need to add multiplayer in. And, like, if you want to, awesome. But it's not necessary. Like, I don't understand why there's so many game companies that decide to throw in, oh, hey, let's put in a multiplayer system to a story-driven game, like a game that only works off with the story. We'll put in a multiplayer system because why not? Like, you don't always need to do that. I just, it's not always necessary. It's not gonna make your game better if you have multiplayer.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks that also it was a Microsoft Studio game, and as Crackdown has always been, it's always been a Microsoft Studio game. It really just kind of sucks that it killed itself with the Microsoft Studio already making subpar games, and the fact that Crackdown 3 was hyped. It was so hyped for the Xbox community. It was unbearably hyped. Like literally anywhere you go on Xbox, you couldn't get away from Crackdown.
I remember when the
And
first Crackdown came out, everyone was like, after it came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this game's
oh yeah,
amazing!"
it
It's
was a
so
phenomenal game. Crackdown 2 was, I wouldn't say as good as the first one, but it definitely was good.
And
And
then Crackdown 3 was it kind of went, it sucks because like there's a lot of great games that, and we talked about this in one of our previous episodes, like with sequels and prequels. Like there's some games that just that don't make a second one, don't make a third one. Like Crackdown obviously belonged in that category. The first game was amazing. The
yeah.
second one, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then like when you get into like sequels and prequels, there's, a time and a place. And how long was it after the release of Crackdown 2 that they made Crackdown 3? Crackdown 3 came out in what, 2019? Crackdown 2
Yeah,
came out when?
I have no
2010.
idea.
It was 10
Damn.
years. Why wait 10 years to make that sequel?
I mean, they took them a while to make Borderlands 3.
Yeah, but at least that one lived up to the hype of Borderlands.
That's true. That's a good point.
And Borderlands, you can always expect a certain tone from it. That even if the gameplay itself, like with the pre-sequel, even though the tone itself is the same as Borderlands, the gameplay isn't as good. But you can still enjoy it, Like there's still like that sense of I like this.
Right.
With sequels that take years upon years to come out, you have to somehow satiate that divide, There's no real time period for when a sequel should come out, but you can tell when it's been too long, for certain games.
Right. And with that, I just want to make a quick mention. I'm actually kind of glad we're finally getting a new Half-Life game, even though it's not Half-Life 3.
The
We don't know what it
Alex.
is yet.
No,
Yeah.
it came out. Yeah,
I'm
it's
it,
something Alex. Hang on.
it's already
Half-Life.
out. I thought it's coming out.
Alex. Yeah, Half-Life Alex. It came out March 23rd.
That deserves its own episode because it's Half-Life.
Yeah, and also it's the first Half-Life and the only Half-Life game that is virtual reality.
Ooh, hell yes. We definitely got to give that a quick look. So
Yeah.
that game itself will be getting its own episode. But moving down the list of, and okay, so we're just gonna flat out say it. Crackdown 3 does not
No.
deserve a second chance. It should just be.
It should have just stayed dead,
I don't know, but one, honestly, one was an amazing game. Two, just I don't know.
I
Three,
think
just
1 was good, 2 was good enough to pass as a Crackdown game, and then 3 did not need to be made at all. Period.
Yeah. So moving down the list, let's
Ow.
move on to a game that it wasn't necessarily failed. It was put in the wrong console. Mad World, which came out in 2009 for the Wii. It was a hack and slash shoot 'em up gore game that was entirely black and white. That honestly, it did not. And a lot of people loved it. A lot of people wished, and there was a lot of comments saying, "Oh, we hope this game comes out for this console, or whatever, like this console or that, or, you know."
Yeah, and for the Wii, it just shouldn't have come out,
Yeah, like,
with that family-friendly type console, it doesn't make sense.
and not gonna lie, like Nintendo. Well, no, in the beginning, Nintendo didn't give a shit what they released, and now Nintendo is more into the family-friendly orientation. But a game like that, when they started becoming more family-friendly, it was a definite, okay, what's this all about? Type of deal.
Yeah, like,
Um,
is this your distant cousin? The one that's like, kind of just at parties, just kind of sits to himself, whispers something under his breath. You're like, okay, let's stay away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, Mad World was definitely, it was a definite success. but a lot of people definitely wished it was out for a different console or for, that was released on other consoles because just being able to play it on the Wii, I don't know. A lot of people just felt it was a weird game to play on such a family-friendly console, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, if it came out for like PC, it probably would have done a lot better. Maybe Xbox and PlayStation, depending on how you decide to do the controls. But definitely PC would have been probably a better platform to release that on.
Right.
And
So with Mad World, yeah, probably even do even way better. But I mean, it was it was a success. Sorry, it just didn't feel right playing such a violent game and on such a family type I don't know. It
yeah,
just felt weird.
I think
Okay,
it should get a second chance as a PC game, no
okay. You
longer as
know
a Wii
what?
game,
I feel like other people deserve a chance to play it. So hey, why not release to the other systems, Josh?
because it's expensive to release to other systems on PC. It's very cheap.
Moving on.
Just
So
saying how it is.
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
All right.
Hey, okay. So
Um.
moving on. Let's move on to a game that let's just be honest. It was kind of stupid and didn't really need a remake or whatever. The Duke Nukem game. That was just I don't even know what to say about that one.
It also took forever. It took way too long in development after they announced it. It was such a bad game, to fucking they hyped it up and they didn't deliver anything. You know, it was
Yeah,
not very good all around.
I mean, the original game was pretty cool, but Duke Nukem 3D was just oh my god, what the hell? That was just not I don't know even that was a fail. And
Yeah,
now and
and
no.
I think if it were to have been released faster at the same quality, it would have done better. If it was to be released at the same time at a higher quality, it would have done better. You know,
I
it's
feel like if anything, they added some stuff, but in reality, it was just like a recolored, re-graphic game that I really don't know what the words for I'm looking for when it comes to Duke Nukem, but the game was lacking in a lot. It was lacking in a lot of departments.
yeah, it was.
And yeah, if it came out earlier or later, probably would have been way better, especially in this day and age where shooters, stuff like the shooter based games are going like crazy. I
Yeah,
feel like it
so
probably would have been better. So, but Duke Nukem, that game was just no. I feel like it may deserve a second chance, but it's just got to
at
add
this
more work
point,
and maybe
I don't think so. I don't think it deserves a second chance. I mean,
yeah.
it's too. It's like what's the saying? Too far, too late, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Uh,
But
so yeah, I don't think it does. I don't think it deserves it simply because too much time has passed and now there's too much competition.
honestly, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was originally, up there with the big old shooters like with Doom and Wolfenstein stuff, but now it's like no, you've lost.
Yeah, it literally dug its own grave.
Unfortunately, yeah. And since we're on the topic of games, we're just going to talk about the one game that just failed and does not deserve anything. And honestly, it should just be buried forever. Daikatana, one of the worst games ever made.
One of. I can list
Yeah,
two
one up.
more. I can list two more on top of my head.
Josh, do you wanna tell the people why Daikatana
You cut out.
Oh
There.
my god. What?
You cut out.
Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, like, I was gonna say, Josh, do you want to take this list? Do you want to
No,
take
you
the
go
list
ahead.
on why Daikatana?
Go ahead. I got the next game in mind already.
Oh, okay. Give me one minute. No, I said that
Cause
because I have it pulled up, but
I don't have it pulled up right now. That's what I'm saying. You should take it.
yeah. So no. So here we go. So not only was it over like super delayed, but I'm trying to read because my computer, because I have it pulled up on my computer. My computer's taking a while, so sorry about this. So one of the things that so not only was it over delayed or long delayed, also the designer from the creator of Doom promised that this game would make you its bitch, which was kind of, that's not a good thing to say, not at all. The AI companions, the AI components or the NPCs, idiotic as hell, did not know what to do. You couldn't really boss them around. The fact that you really didn't have that many saves, there was only a few. There was only a few little auto saves, and only you could save a few times before it was done. Your characters, your sidekicks or whatever, getting crushed, wandering aimlessly into your line of fire was also extremely irritating. And most of the time, if one of your characters or sidekicks died, the game was over. It was a game over and you had to restart. That game was in no way a successor to Doom or even like worthy being in the same sense as Doom. That game was straight up just the worst. One of the worst, and it was just garbage. Not to mention the I have something in my throat, sorry. Not to mention the minute the game was released, it was met with a massive, massive wave of just negative reviews, horrible comments explaining why the game was bad. Daikatana was probably just the worst game ever made.
Uh,
In it, and in no way.
and you cut out again.
God damn it.
And in no way, what? Still didn't hear that.
And in no way does it deserve a second chance. Did you hear
There
that?
you go. There you go. No way deserves a second chance. All right. So next game that, on the flip side, I think does deserve a second look. Simply not only because I loved the game itself when it came out, but because it was a sacrificial lamb for our favorite developers, our publishers, EA. Titanfall 2 was viciously sacrificed in between Call of Duty
hell yeah.
Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1's release dates. And EA knew this, and they wanted to get ahead of the curve on Infinite Warfare by releasing their own jetpack shooter. And Battlefield 1 simply just took it over. Because it's unfortunate because I love Titanfall, and Titanfall 2 was a phenomenal game. The single player was amazing, and the multiplayer was fucking spectacular. But Battlefield 1, its release date just before Titanfall 2's release date, and then Infinite Warfare coming out not 2 months after, it really stood no chance to even survive. Because while Battlefield 1, you could, take your time with that, level your character up for a while, and then Call of Duty comes out, so you're just going to switch over to Call of Duty right after. Titanfall, made by Respawn, who has made now Apex Legends, which is a fucking huge hit, really didn't have much of a choice as to when their release was, though. That's the sad thing, is that they would have released it later or earlier if they had the choice. But because the original Titanfall was Xbox exclusive, Titanfall 2 was on multiple platforms, and it failed, which sucks. and it was a sacrificial
Yeah,
lamb, and I don't like that. It still pisses me
yeah,
off.
yeah. I do think it deserves a remake or a second chance if they ever want to go back to that game. But yeah, it was definitely Sacrificial Lamb, and it sucks because Titanfall 1 was a pretty good game. 2 needed some work, but
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think it
obviously it
deserved
needed
to be
some work.
sacrificed that.
And then with Titanfall 2, it definitely did not deserve that sacrificial lamb kind of style. Uh, I think it does deserve a second chance, but at this point, it's no point to do that. You know, with Apex being out and how popular that is, they're actually probably better off now than they ever were before. You know, and unfortunately, no Titanfall 3 coming out anytime soon because they decided to make Apex instead of Titanfall 3. So we're going to wait on that. By we, I mean me. Because I really want a Titanfall 3 to come out.
So I think the last game we're going to talk about, unless you have another one, Josh, a game that was beloved by millions all over the world, and then in 2006 was ruined. I'm talking about Bomberman Act Zero. Capture the
Bomberman.
hearts of Bomberman. Yeah, the original. Don't you
Wait,
remember
wait, wait.
Bomberman from the?
I remember the Bomberman, but one of the games failed.
No, the remake or revamp or whatever, because they decided to remake Bomberman and called Bomberman Act Zero in a dystopian future filled with death and darkness, really. So it's basically going from that cute little masked bomber guy, ninja, whatever, and all those cute little worlds and everything, and they brought him into a world of pure darkness and just hate. So they
Uh,
took something cute and put it into. So they basically took Bomberman from this cute little Nintendo world and threw him into the world of Gears of War, basically.
oh my god. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what they did to Bomberman. And what was even worse is that they ruined all of the balanced mechanics between the local multiplayer game when you went to like versus mode, whatever. They took all that away, and they added just a bunch of single player mods. And one of the worst things about it, besides kind of ruining the cute aspect of it, and the puzzle, it was more like a speed. They decided to make it into a speed puzzle series instead of. They made it was more fast paced instead of you take your time, you do this, you find out what you need to do. They made it fast paced so you were kind of on a rush. And then like I said, like how they had the local multiplayer, like split screen,
Yeah.
they took it into online battles. Like it was just.
Yeah. No.
And unfortunately, there was no one on the multiplayer server, so that died out super fast.
That's kind of unfortunate for such a classic, well-known game. We can't hear you.
And when you mention, no one talks about this game at all. But when you mention Bomberman, everyone just thinks of the original cute Bomberman game. They don't think about this at all, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, that's I think it's one of the best things is that when games like that get remade, uh, flop, it's really easy to think about the original games that really did really well. Speaking of, I have one more game that flopped miserably that you can think back to the original game and think of good times, and that's Warcraft. Um,
Oh my God, Warcraft. Are
Warcraft
we talking
3.
about 3? Yeah,
Warcraft 3 with
was a
their
mistake.
lower score than ET Extraterrestrial.
Dude, I know. That,
With
like, how do
it
you
was a
do
point
worse?
4. The lowest we checked was point 0.4.
Like, how on earth do you do bad than ET? That game was a nightmare.
Yeah, there's not a lot of fucking reason to go less than a 1. If you go below a 1, you should just stop and put the game to bed. There's not a lot you can do to bring it back. I think
Honest,
Anthem had a higher score. I'm pretty sure Anthem. No, I'm
it
100%
did.
sure.
It
Anthem
did.
Metacritic. Let's look at that really quick. Uh, it definitely higher than a point 0.4. Yeah, it had a 4.0. Same
Oh
score,
wow,
just
that's funny.
flipped. Same score, just flipped. But like,
Wow, that is hilarious.
It's not. You shouldn't have had a game that's that bad. And it's not even like, a few reviews gave it zeros. I think on Metac. How many reviews does it have now? Fuck. Almost 30,000 reviews at 0.6.
Jesus.
So it's not just one person being like, I hate this game, and the rest of them are like, what the fuck? This is 30,000 people consecutively deciding, unanimously, being like, this game is less than a 1. Like,
Oh my god, that's sad.
that is so
That's just
bad.
sad at that point. Like, it's not even funny. That's just sad.
It is such a bad score. It's unbelievable. And for a lot of reasons, it fucking died. For so many reasons, it died. Like, I've not played the game. God knows I've not played that game. From what I heard, is the UI was god awful.
Yep.
The graphics were not up to par for modern day games, and
Yeah, pretty
people were
much.
expecting it to be. Not to mention
I
that the
think the
word of the
biggest
word of mouth was fucking awful, worse than Anthem.
I think the biggest thing was that a lot of people were expecting like new cinematics, like in-game cinematics, and
That too. You cut out again.
oh my god, I just said, what they did was they took all the original in-game cinematics and just threw them back into that game as if it was nothing, which pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, and when you're re-releasing a game, one that's really well thought out and popular, and you remake it for modern day times, there's a certain level of work that needs to be put in. You can't just literally grab a game, slightly, very very slightly update the graphics and the combat system, change the UI, leave the same cutscenes, and then re-release it and expect it to do good. Just because it did good before does not mean it's going to do good now. The reason it took off at that time is because it had the perfect storm following it,
Right,
So
yeah.
you can't ride that because, eventually hurricanes die out. You can't follow that storm forever. After a certain point, it will die out, and who's ever left standing is still gonna play. But if you're not, if you got one of the people swept in the storm, and then you realize, damn, this is far from where we started, they're not gonna play the game anymore.
Right, and that's another sad thing that like a lot of people ignore. Or not ignore, but overlook or whatever.
Yeah, and does it deserve a second chance?
No.
Hell no. Hell no, it doesn't. I don't believe. Out of many, many games that were on this list, very, very few deserve second chances simply because there's a reason they failed. And it's
Most
not simply because they were put into a bad release date, it's because the game itself was bad.
some people who like that game, like those games, they'll constantly find. And I'm gonna say this right now: if you like that game, then awesome. I'm happy. I will never say like, oh, that game's super shitty. You shouldn't like it. unless it's like a really bad game. But if you like that game and you have your own reasons for liking it, then good for you. But most of the time, there are games that are just so bad, and people don't really seem to understand why. It's because you didn't put enough love and attention into this game. You made it bad. You just overhyped it. You didn't really care about how the game actually worked. You didn't care about the gameplay. You just cared about, hey, it looks cool. Let's sell it. And that's something that's sad and strikes so many great games that have so much potential, is that they'll be overhyped, overlooked. Well, not overlooked. I keep using that word. They're overhyped.
You cut out again.
If you get, God fucking damn it.
I don't know why this is happening.
Who knows? All right, let's wrap it up. I'm sick and tired of being cut out. Anyway,
right.
catch us next time, guys. I'm Tim.
And I'm Josh. Well,
And
before
this was Gamer Chat.
Before we go, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, because we need to start doing this at the end of our episodes, because we don't do
make
this.
Sure make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're known as Official Gamer Chat on Instagram and
Real Gamer Chat on Twitter, because official wouldn't fit.
Sure, let's go with that.
No, that's what happened. I tried to put official. It didn't fit.
Oh,
which sucks.
Anyway.
And then make sure to subscribe to YouTube if you're if you're listening on Spotify. If you're listening on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and on Anchor, and we will for sure be uploading more and much more consistently.
All right, catch you next time, guys. This was Gamer Chat.
See ya.